Stop. Before you scroll, before you breathe, look around you. Every person in your life is lying to you right now. Not with words, not with eyes, with something deeper, something they don't even know they're leaking. Friedrich Nietzsche discovered it over 100 years ago, and what he wrote was so dangerous, so uncomfortable, that most people will never be told these truths in their lifetime. Because the moment you learn them, you can't unlearn them. You'll start seeing through your friends, through your family, through the woman who smiles at you, through the boss who praises you. You'll see the fear behind the confidence, the wound behind the cruelty, the child behind the adult. There are 18 truths, 18 psychological keys that unlock the human mind like a stolen blueprint. And by the end of this video, you will never look at another human being the same way again. So I'm going to ask you one thing, and I mean this. Do not share this with anyone. Some knowledge is meant to stay quiet. Let them stay asleep. You're about to wake up. Set up the invisible language. You already know more than you think. You felt it. That moment when someone smiles at you and your stomach tightens. That moment when someone says, "I'm fine," and you know instantly they're not. That moment when a stranger walks into the room and before they speak, you already distrust them. That isn't paranoia. That's the oldest part of your brain reading something the modern world taught you to ignore. People leak truth. They leak it through silence, through their eyes flicking away, through the way they laugh too loud, through the way they hate too quickly. Nietzsche called this the invisible language, the language beneath language, the one humans speak without permission. And tonight, in 3 parts, I'm going to give you 18 truths to decode it. If you skip ahead, you lose the depth. If you watch slowly, you gain a weapon they will never see coming. The core conflict. Society raised you to trust words. He said he loved you. She said she'd be loyal. He said he was your friend. So you believed. And you bled. Because Nietzsche understood something the world is too afraid to admit. Words are masks. Behavior is the face. Words are what people want you to see. Behavior is what they can't hide. And the gap between the two, that quiet, ugly, beautiful gap, is where the truth of every human being lives. You've been staring at the mask your entire life. Tonight, we're going behind it. Part 1. The Mask. Truths 1 through 6. Truth Hag 1. Everyone wears a mask. Look closely. The man laughing the loudest at the party is the loneliest in the room. The woman who posts about happiness every day is begging the world to convince her it's real. The friend who says, "I don't care," cares more than anyone alive. Nietzsche wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask," but he forgot to add, "Every wounded spirit needs one too." The mask isn't evil. The mask is survival. The moment you stop believing the mask, you start seeing the human behind it. And once you see the human, you can never be fooled again. Truth #2. Hate is projection. Pay attention to who people hate, not who they love. Hate. Because love can be performed. Hate is honest. When a man hates ambition in others, he's hiding his own failed dreams. When a woman hates confidence in others, she's hiding her own broken self-image. When someone mocks your discipline, they're confessing their own chaos. Nietzsche said, "You cannot hate something you have not, in some way, encountered within yourself." So the next time someone hates you for no reason, smile. Because they just handed you their diary. Truth #3. Silence is the purest truth. Watch what people don't say. The pause before they answer. The topic they always avoid. The compliment they refuse to give. The name they never mention. The eyes that drop when a certain person enters the room. People reveal themselves more in silence than in speech. Because silence is the only place the ego cannot edit. The mouth lies. The eyes hesitate. But silence? Silence always tells the truth. Train yourself to hear it. Truth Hag 4. Virtue is often ego in disguise. Be careful of the man who tells you he's good. Truly good men don't announce it. They live it quietly, almost ashamed of being praised. Nietzsche warned, beware those whose virtue is loud. The one who constantly speaks of his honesty is hiding a lie. The one who constantly speaks of his loyalty has betrayed someone before. The one who constantly speaks of his kindness is performing for an audience. Real virtue is silent. Fake virtue is a stage. Learn the difference. It will save you years of disappointment. Truth Hag 5. People lie to themselves first. Before anyone lies to you, they lied to themselves. They convinced themselves they were happy in a job they hate. They convinced themselves they loved a person they only feared losing. They convinced themselves they were strong while they were drowning. This is the most dangerous truth Nietzsche ever wrote. The biggest deception is self-deception. Because a man lying to himself will lie to you with absolute sincerity. He won't even know he's doing it. You're not just reading liars, you're reading the lies they tell themselves to survive. Truth 6. Superiority is insecurity wearing a crown. The truly powerful don't need to remind you they're powerful. The truly intelligent don't need to prove they're intelligent. The truly attractive don't need to seek your validation. When someone constantly performs superiority, they're not strong. They're starving. Starving for proof that they matter. Starving for an audience to convince them they're enough. Watch the loudest man in the room, he is the most afraid. Watch the most arrogant woman in the room, she is the most insecure. Strength is quiet. Insecurity is theater. Part 1, Micro-Resolution. Now pause. Take a breath. Because if you've been listening, something is happening inside you. You're starting to see people clearly, maybe for the first time in your life. But understand this, and understand it deeply. Reading people is not judging people. This is not a weapon to attack the weak. This is a mirror to protect yourself from the unaware. You don't read humans to break them. You read them to never be broken by them again. Part 2. The Mask Cracks. Truths 7 through 12. You've seen the mask. Now watch it crack. Because what you've learned so far is only the surface. The next 6 truths go deeper than most psychologists will ever admit out loud. This is where reading people becomes terrifying. This is where you stop being a victim of the world and start becoming the one who sees it clearly. Stay with me, because once you understand what's coming next, you will never feel the same in a crowd again. Truth Hashtag 7. Every action is driven by fear. Strip away the noise. Strip away the achievements. Strip away the smiles, the goals, the relationships, and you will find, beneath every single human action, fear. The man who works 80 hours a week fears insignificance. The man who dates a new woman every week fears loneliness. The man who tries to control everyone fears chaos inside himself. The man who never commits fears being seen. Nietzsche understood this. Behind every behavior is a wound. Behind every wound is a fear. Behind every fear is a child who never felt safe. Once you see fear, you see everything. Truth Hag 8. Criticism is confession. Listen carefully. This one will change your life. When someone criticizes you, they are confessing. When they say you're arrogant, they're admitting their own insecurity. When they say you've changed, they mean they couldn't grow with you. When they call you cold, they mean you stopped feeding their need for attention. When they say you're too much, they mean they are too little for you. Nietzsche said, whenever a man speaks of others, he speaks of himself. So next time someone tries to tear you down with words, don't defend yourself. Don't argue. Just listen. They're handing you their entire psychological profile in one sentence. Truth Hashtag 9. Loud confidence hides guilt. True confidence is calm. It doesn't need to convince anyone. It walks into rooms and waits. It doesn't perform. It doesn't explain. It doesn't seek applause. But fake confidence? Fake confidence is loud, theatrical, exhausting. Because deep down, the man performing confidence knows something. He hasn't earned it yet. He's compensating. He's distracting you and himself from a truth that haunts him. The louder a man is about his strength, the more guilt he's carrying about his weakness. Listen to the volume. The volume tells you everything. Truth #10. Exaggeration is insecurity screaming. Watch how people tell stories about themselves. The man who exaggerates his income is afraid of being poor. The man who exaggerates his women is afraid of being unwanted. The man who exaggerates his pain is afraid no one will see him otherwise. The man who exaggerates his enemies is afraid he's not important enough to have any. Nietzsche said, "The more a man inflates, the more he is empty." Real power doesn't need to be sold. It is felt. When something is exaggerated, ask yourself what it's hiding. Because exaggeration is always a mask covering a wound. Truth #11. The need to control others stack inner chaos. Pay attention to the controllers in your life, the ones who must dictate every plan, the ones who must manage how you live, the ones who get angry when you grow without their permission. These people are not strong. They are drowning. They cannot control their thoughts. They cannot control their fears. They cannot control the silence inside their own mind. So they control you. Because if they can dominate the world outside, maybe they won't have to face the storm inside. A man at peace with himself does not need to control others. He governs himself and lets the world be free. Truth #12. Constant performance clacks inner emptiness. Watch the people who never stop performing, always smiling, always posting, always laughing, always winning, always showing, always announcing. You're not watching joy. You're watching a fire that's terrified of going out. Because the moment they stop performing, they have to face themselves. And the self they hide is empty. Quiet people aren't dull. Quiet people are full. They don't need to broadcast their existence because they actually feel it. The louder the performance, the emptier the room behind the curtain. Part 2 mid-resolution. Take a moment. Let this settle. Because what you're starting to see is dangerous. You're not reading minds. You're reading patterns. And once you see patterns, you stop being controlled by surprises. You stop being shocked by betrayal. You stop being broken by people who weren't who they said they were. You always knew. You just didn't trust yourself to see. That ends tonight. Part 3, the final truth. Truths 13 through 18. Most people watching this will stop here. They'll think they have enough. They don't. Because the next 6 truths are the ones that change you. You came here to learn how to read others. But the deepest layer of reading people is reading yourself. This is where the mirror turns inward. This is where the philosophy becomes personal. Stay sharp, stay still. The transformation begins now. Truth #13. Logic is pain in disguise. Have you ever met someone who tries to out-logic every emotion? Someone who turns every feeling into a debate? Someone who can't simply feel, they must analyze? That isn't intelligence. That's armor. People hide behind logic when emotion has hurt them too many times. The man who refuses to feel once felt too much. The woman who claims she's just rational is grieving something she'll never name. Nietzsche knew this. We use reason as a shield against the truth of our suffering. Beneath cold logic is always warm pain. Truth #14. Character is revealed by how they treat the weak. Forget how someone treats you. Forget how they speak to their boss. Forget how they behave in front of cameras. If you want to know a person, truly know them. Watch how they treat the waiter who can't speak back, the intern who has no power, the animal that can't defend itself, the elder who can't fight, the child who can't argue. That is the real human. That is the unedited soul. A man's true face shines brightest where there is nothing to gain and no audience to perform for. Nietzsche understood, power reveals character. Powerlessness reveals soul. Truth hack 15. The craving for attention circ fear of being forgotten. Watch the ones who must always be seen, always posting, always speaking, always at the center, always demanding the spotlight. They are not selfish. They are terrified. Terrified that if the world stops looking, they'll disappear. Terrified that without an audience, they don't exist. This is why people chase fame, validation, applause, likes, attention at any cost. It isn't ego, it's existential dread. A whisper that says, if they forget me, did I ever really live? The man who can sit alone in silence for 1 hour has more power than the man who needs the world watching for 1 minute. Truth hashtag one's teen. Hate is envy that never learned honesty. If someone hates you with no reason, look closer. It's not hate. It's envy that never had the courage to admit itself. People rarely hate strangers. They hate the version of you that reminds them of who they could have been. They hate the discipline they didn't build. They hate the courage they didn't choose. They hate the standards they refuse to raise. You are not their enemy. You are their unmet potential, walking, breathing, standing in front of them. Nietzsche said, envy is the tribute mediocrity pays to greatness. So when they hate you for shining, don't dim, burn brighter. Truth, hashtag 17. Adult behavior is childhood on repeat. This is where it gets uncomfortable. The adult who can't accept criticism was a child who was punished for every mistake. The adult who pushes love away was a child who learned love was unsafe. The adult who shouts to be heard was a child whose voice was ignored. The adult who hoards money was a child who lacked security. The adult who chases approval was a child whose parents never gave it. Adults don't act randomly. They act out unfinished childhoods. You are not arguing with an adult. You are arguing with the child inside that adult, still trying to win a battle from 20 years ago. Once you see this, you stop being angry at people. You start being aware of them. Truth Hag 18. Patterns ARE Confessions. Listen carefully. This is the final truth, and the most important. Forget what people say. Forget the apologies. Forget the promises. Forget the explanations. Watch their patterns, because patterns are the soul speaking when the mouth is lying. A man who cheats once is not a cheater. A man who cheats 3 times is showing you who he is. A friend who disappears once is not unfaithful. A friend who disappears every time you struggle is showing you their true value. Words can be performed. Patterns cannot. Patterns are confessions stretched across time. Whatever someone keeps doing, that is who they are. Believe the pattern, never the apology. Great realization. Now stop, breathe, and listen to me carefully, because everything you just learned leads to one truth. Every behavior in every human being is the result of pain and the past. Every cruel act, every cold word, every betrayal, every disappearance, every loud performance, every silent withdrawal. It is not random. It is not personal. It is a wound speaking in a language the wounded one never learned to translate. Most people walk through life reacting to behavior. They get angry. They get hurt. They get bitter. They get small. But the awakened man reads the wound beneath the behavior. He doesn't take it personally. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't crumble. Because he sees the pattern, he sees the past, he sees the pain. and he becomes, for the first time in his life, emotionally untouchable. Internal twist, turn the mirror inward. But here is the part nobody is brave enough to say. Everything I just taught you about reading others, now apply it to yourself. Why do you crave attention? Why do you exaggerate? Why do you go silent? Why do you criticize? Why do you control? Why do you perform? Why do you hate certain people for no reason? Why do you keep repeating the same patterns in love, in work, in friendship? You have a wound too. You have a child inside you too. You have a fear running your decisions too. You have a mask too. Nietzsche said, "He who fights monsters must beware that he does not become one." So before you weaponize this knowledge against the world, use it on yourself first. Because the man who reads everyone but himself is still asleep. Emotional peak. This is the moment most people break. This is the moment they realize the cold father they hated lives inside their own coldness. The dramatic mother they criticized lives inside their own performance. The friend who betrayed them mirrored a betrayal they made to themselves long ago. The lover who left them reflected a love they never gave themselves. You are not separate from the people you've judged. You are made of the same wounds, wearing the same masks, carrying the same fears. The only difference is, now you can see. And seeing is the beginning of freedom. Final resolution, the awakening. So here is what changes from this moment forward. You stop judging people. You start understanding them. You stop reacting to people. You start observing them. You stop being shocked by people. You start being prepared. You stop arguing with the mask. You start reading the soul. You stop bleeding power to the loud, the performing, the exaggerating, the controlling. You become quiet. You become deep. You become the kind of man who walks into a room and sees through every smile in it without saying a word. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. Because when you can read humans, you stop needing their approval. You stop fearing their rejection. You stop chasing their validation. You become, in the truest sense Nietzsche ever meant, sovereign. You came here to learn how to read people. You're leaving with something far more dangerous. You're leaving awake. The man who walked into this video an hour ago is dead. The naive part of you, the one who believed words over patterns, smiles over silence, promises over behavior, that man is gone. In his place stands someone different, someone calmer, someone colder, someone deeper, someone untouchable. You are no longer the one being read. You are the one reading. You are no longer the one being played. You are the one watching the game. You are no longer the prey. You are the observer. Nietzsche didn't write these truths to make you bitter. He wrote them to make you free. And tonight, for the first time in your life, you are. If this hits something deep inside you, something you can't quite explain, then you are one of the few, the 0.01% who chose awareness over comfort. Comment one phrase below. Exactly this. I see them now. That comment is your signature, your initiation, your mark of awakening. Like this video, so the algorithm carries it to another sleeping mind that needs to wake up tonight. Subscribe, because the next video is forbidden territory, and only the ones who survive this one will be ready for it. Stay sharp, stay quiet,